It's the dead of winter in New England. Snow blankets the remote backroads of New Hampshire, and temperatures dip well below freezing. A young woman, just 21 years old, is driving alone on Route 112. Hours earlier, she had told her professors she was leaving town because of a family emergency. She packed up her dorm room, withdrew nearly all her cash, and set off on a journey no one could quite explain. But at 7:27 p.m., her black Saturn veered off the road and slammed into a snowbank. A school bus driver stopped, offering to help, but she refused. Minutes later, when police arrived, the car was still there, its engine warm, airbags deployed, and her belongings scattered inside. But Maura Murray had vanished. No footprints, no trail, no explanation. And for the last 2 decades, that single moment has remained one of America's most haunting mysteries. And before we dive in, a quick reminder, over 90% of people watching my videos aren't subscribed. If you enjoy true crime mysteries like this one, subscribing helps this channel grow and ensures you never miss the next upload. Now, let's step back into February 2004. Maura Murray wasn't just another college student. She was bright, athletic, and ambitious. Born in Hanson, Massachusetts, she had once been a cadet at the prestigious West Point Military Academy before transferring to the University of Massachusetts Amherst to study nursing. But behind that promising exterior, cracks were beginning to show. Maura had faced academic pressure, a recent disciplinary issue, and even a strange late-night incident at her security job just days earlier. She was close to her family, especially her father, Fred, but she had secrets, too. On February 9th, 2004, Maura told her professors that she would be gone for a week because of family emergency. But no such emergency existed. Instead, she quietly packed her dorm room into boxes, removed photos from her walls, and gathered her personal belongings. It was a gesture that felt less like a short trip and more like the closing of a chapter. Later that day, she withdrew $280 from an ATM and stopped at a liquor store to purchase alcohol. Then, she climbed into her black Saturn sedan and drove north toward the White Mountains of New Hampshire. To understand Maura's disappearance, we have to retrace her final hours. At around 3:30 p.m., she used her computer to search for directions to Burlington, Vermont. She also printed MapQuest directions to New Hampshire, a detail that would later puzzle investigators. Did she have a specific destination in mind, or was she simply driving toward an escape? By all accounts, she didn't tell her roommates or friends where she was going. That same evening, she left Amherst and headed north. Cell phone records suggest she may have called her boyfriend, Bill Roche, who lived in Oklahoma. But the exact details of their conversation remain unclear. Then came a crash. Around 7:27 p.m., several residents along Route 112 in Haverhill reported hearing a loud thud. A local bus driver, Butch Atwood, drove by and saw Maura's Saturn stuck in a snowbank. He stopped to help, but she insisted she had already called roadside assistance. That wasn't true. Her phone records show she made no such call. Moments later, Atwood drove on, but within 10 minutes, police arrived. By then, Maura was gone. The crash scene was chilling in its simplicity. Her black Saturn had struck a tree and was disabled. The airbags had deployed. Inside, police found her belongings: alcohol, clothing, school books, and a stuffed animal. Her debit card and cell phone were missing, but they would never be used again. There were no footprints in the snow leading away from the car. No tire tracks suggesting she was picked up by another vehicle. Just silence on a dark, desolate winter road. The first search began quickly. Dogs traced her scent a short distance up the road, but then it vanished, some say just 100 yards from the crash site. It was as if she had stepped off the face of the earth. What happened to Maura Murray? Over the years, dozens of theories have been suggested. Some believe Maura planned her escape. She had packed her dorm, printed directions, and withdrawn cash. But if she ran away, why leave her belongings in the car? And why vanish without contacting her family? Did Maura run into the woods to avoid police, only to succumb to the freezing cold? Searches found nothing. No body, no clothing, no trace. The most chilling theory is that someone found Maura after the crash and took her. Locals reported suspicious men in the area that night, and Route 112 was isolated, perfect for a predator. Psychologically, Maura was under pressure. She had faced disciplinary issues at school, stress in her relationship, and she may have been struggling silently with personal demons. But did those struggles push her toward escape, or into the hands of something darker? The police response has been criticized. Early searches may have overlooked key evidence. But as the years passed, Maura's case grew into one of the most followed mysteries in true crime history. Internet forums dedicated to her case exploded with speculation. Every detail of her life was dissected, every timeline analyzed. Yet despite thousands of tips, no credible evidence has surfaced. Fred Murray, Maura's father, has never stopped searching. He believes his daughter was abducted and has pushed law enforcement for answers. But even today, nearly 2 decades later, the disappearance of Maura Murray remains unsolved. As hours turned into days, frustrations grew. The Murray family criticized police for treating the disappearance as a voluntary runaway instead of a potential crime. Investigators didn't initially treat the crash site as a crime scene. The car was towed, belongings were moved, and precious hours of evidence may have been lost. Critics argue that the crucial first 48 hours, the window that can make or break a missing person's case, were mishandled. If Maura was abducted, her captor may have slipped away unnoticed in that time. As news spread, theories about Maura's fate multiplied. Some believed she ran into the woods to avoid arrest and died in the freezing cold. Yet extensive searches of the area turned up nothing. No body, no clothing, no sign of her. Others insisted she was picked up by a passerby, possibly someone with sinister intentions. The rural road was dark, isolated, and frequented by truckers and locals. Could she have accepted a ride from a stranger? And then there's the possibility of a voluntary disappearance. Maura had packed her dorm belongings, withdrawn cash, and purchased alcohol. To some, this looked like someone planning a getaway. But where was she going? And why would she leave behind her life, her family, and never reach out again? For the Murray family, the days after the crash were agony. Fred Murray walked the roads himself, calling out for his daughter. He plastered missing posters across New Hampshire, vowing never to stop searching. Maura's siblings described her as smart, driven, and deeply loved. But they also admitted she had her struggles, academic stress, personal troubles, and secrets she kept even from those closest to her. The family was torn between hope and despair. Did Maura run away from it all? Or had she become the victim of a predator waiting in the shadows? Maura's disappearance coincided with the rise of online forums, and soon her case became one of the first true crime mysteries dissected by an army of internet sleuths. Every detail of her life was scrutinized: her emails, her phone calls, even her ATM footage. Strangers debated her motives, argued over theories, and in some cases, accused people close to her of being involved. The Murray family felt the pain of not only losing their daughter, but watching her story picked apart by thousands of strangers online. Yet this digital obsession also kept the case alive. Without it, some argue, Maura's story might have faded into obscurity. Instead, it became a cultural phenomenon, fueling documentaries, podcasts, and endless speculation. To understand the mystery, we must look at Maura herself. She was a young woman at a crossroads, juggling school, family expectations, and a complicated relationship with her boyfriend. She had recently faced disciplinary issues at her campus job, and days before her disappearance, she had been in a minor car accident in her father's vehicle. Pressure was mounting. Was Maura planning to escape? Did she see the trip north as a way to reset her life, even just temporarily? Or was she lured into a dangerous situation by someone she trusted? Psychologists point out that people under intense stress sometimes make sudden, drastic decisions. But others argue that Maura's actions were not random. They were calculated, which means if she vanished intentionally, perhaps she planned it better than anyone suspected. The search continued for weeks, but no answers emerged. Helicopters, search dogs, divers, nothing. Not a single confirmed sighting of Maura has ever been made since that night. Where did she go? Did she enter another vehicle? Did she run into the woods? Or was something darker waiting for her on that lonely stretch of road? From the start, investigators faced criticism. The crash scene wasn't locked down as a potential crime scene. Evidence may have been lost. Dogs lost her scent almost immediately. Witness statements conflicted, and early searches failed to uncover anything concrete. By the time the case was treated with the seriousness it deserved, days had passed. That delay opened the door to endless speculation and to a list of suspects that grew with every passing year. One of the earliest theories pointed to an unknown driver. Witnesses reported seeing a vehicle, a red truck, near the crash site around the time Maura vanished. Some claimed it was a local man with a questionable reputation. Yet investigators never found evidence strong enough to connect him to Maura. The area around Route 112 was rural, remote, and populated by a handful of locals and passing truckers. Could Maura have accepted a ride from the wrong person? Was she picked up, willingly or unwillingly, and then silenced forever? As with many disappearances, suspicion didn't stop with strangers. Maura's boyfriend, Bill Roche, came under scrutiny. Their relationship was complicated, long distance, and riddled with tension. Phone records show they spoke the night she vanished. But was he involved? Bill has always maintained his innocence, and no evidence has ever tied him to the case. Even Fred Murray, Maura's father, faced suspicion from online sleuths. He had been with her the weekend before she vanished, helping her shop for a new car. But Fred has spent the last 20 years searching relentlessly for answers, an effort that hardly matches the profile of a guilty man. Yet rumors, speculation, and internet theories cast shadows even where none should exist. Over the years, possible leads surfaced: an abandoned house nearby, strange activity from locals, supposed sightings in other states. Each one fizzled. Each clue collapsed under scrutiny. In 2006, a man allegedly confessed to having knowledge of Maura's fate. A search was conducted at his property, but nothing was found. Another tip pointed investigators to a nearby concrete slab, but ground-penetrating radar revealed nothing. For every promising lead, there were 10 dead ends. And with each disappointment, the case grew colder. Maura's case was one of the first mysteries to explode in the internet age. Forums dissected every detail of her life. Theories clashed. Some believed she planned her own disappearance, pointing to the way she emptied her dorm, printed directions, and withdrew cash. Others were certain she was murdered. But what became clear is this: the internet turned Maura Murray into more than just a missing person. She became a symbol of the unknown, a face frozen in time, staring back from missing posters, documentaries, and late-night debates. So what does psychology tell us? If Maura planned her disappearance, she left in a way that suggests foresight: cash withdrawn, belongings packed, directions printed. But why crash her car, and why vanish into the woods in sub-zero temperatures? If she was abducted, the profile fits: young, vulnerable, alone on a dark rural road. Statistically, abduction by a stranger is rare, but not impossible. And if that happened, the perpetrator may have struck swiftly, leaving no trace. The human mind under stress is unpredictable. Was Maura seeking escape? Or was her vanishing the tragic intersection of vulnerability and opportunity for someone with darker intentions? In recent years, searches have continued. In 2019, new digs at a property near the crash site raised hopes, but again, no evidence of Maura was found. Law enforcement insists the case is still active, but 2 decades have passed without resolution. Every year, Fred Murray reminds the world of his daughter's absence. Every year, her case draws new followers, new investigators, and new theories. Yet the truth remains hidden. On the surface, the crash scene looked straightforward. A car slides on icy roads, hits a snowbank, and stalls out. But investigators noticed something odd. The damage to the front of the Saturn suggested it may not have been a single-car accident. Some experts believe it was more consistent with hitting another vehicle or being forced off the road. The airbags had deployed. A box of wine had spilled across the car, and a rag was stuffed into the tailpipe, something many have speculated could indicate mechanical trouble. Did Maura attempt a quick fix? Or was someone else trying to disable the vehicle? None of these questions have ever been answered. Several witnesses reported seeing Maura near the crash site. One neighbor said she appeared shaken but not injured. Another claimed she was gone when they looked again just minutes later. But timelines conflict. Did Maura vanish in a matter of minutes, slipping into the dark woods before police arrived? But did someone else arrive first, offering her a ride, or forcing her into a vehicle? The smallest gaps in those witness statements create the largest holes in the timeline. And in those holes, theories grow. Several witnesses reported seeing Maura near the crash site. One neighbor said she appeared shaken but not injured. Another claimed she was gone when they looked again just minutes later. But timelines conflict. Did Maura vanish in a matter of minutes, slipping into the dark woods before police arrived? Or did someone else arrive first, offering her a ride, or forcing her into a vehicle? The smallest gaps in those witness statements create the largest holes in the timeline. And in those holes, theories grow. Some investigators and online sleuths have suggested that the crash in Haverhill may not have been Maura's first accident of the night. Earlier that evening, her father's new car had been damaged in a minor collision. Was Maura involved? Did she panic, knowing she'd have to explain another accident so soon? If true, the stress of back-to-back incidents might explain why she fled the scene. But it also raises another question. Was someone following her that night? In the days leading up to February 9th, Maura's behavior was unusual. She had abruptly packed up her dorm room. She'd emailed professors with vague excuses. She had even searched for directions to places far from Amherst, Massachusetts, like the White Mountains, where she ultimately vanished. Was she planning a getaway? A break from her life? Or was she running from something or someone we still don't know about? Few missing persons cases have generated the level of obsession Maura's has. Entire online communities have dedicated themselves to solving it. Podcasts, documentaries, forums, all dissecting the same fragments of evidence, sometimes drawing new connections, sometimes clouding the waters further. This obsession has had both positive and negative effects. On one hand, it has kept her case alive in the public eye for nearly 20 years. On the other, it has fueled wild speculation, often targeting innocent people, from family members to strangers who lived nearby. And in the middle of all of it is Maura's family, still desperate for answers, but also burdened by endless scrutiny. Authorities insist they still treat the case as an open investigation, but the flow of information has been minimal. They rarely comment publicly, leaving gaps that the public eagerly fills with speculation. Some believe police know more than they've revealed, that they're holding back critical details only the perpetrator would know. Others believe it's simply a case that ran cold too quickly, evidence lost in those crucial first 48 hours. At the end of the day, Maura's disappearance is less about what we know and more about what we don't. The wine box, the rag in the tailpipe, the scattered belongings, they're puzzle pieces that never seem to fit. Witnesses give glimpses, but their timelines don't line up. Searches sweep the woods, but no trace of Maura ever emerges. She is both everywhere in this case, her photo on billboards, in articles, on forums, and nowhere. Not a single confirmed sighting since that night. Not a single piece of definitive evidence. The stretch of road where Maura vanished is lonely, shadowed by thick woods, with few homes and fewer witnesses. But it isn't just Maura who disappeared along routes cutting through New Hampshire and Vermont. In 1978, a young nurse named Denise Daynault vanished from Claremont, New Hampshire. In 1981, Bernice Courtmanche, just 17, went missing nearby. Two more women, Ellen Fried and Barbara Agnew, disappeared under eerily similar circumstances in the same region. Some were later found murdered. Others, like Maura, were never seen again. This cluster of disappearances spanning decades earned the area a chilling nickname, the Valley of Death. But here's the problem. No trace of Maura has ever been found. Not a jacket, not a shoe, not even a bone. For search teams, that absence was chilling. If Maura had collapsed in the snow that night, the spring thaw should have revealed her remains. It never did, which raises the darker possibility that she never made it into the woods at all. Those who believe in the predator theory point to the precision of Maura's disappearance. Dogs lost her scent just 100 yards from the car, as if she had been picked up quickly and driven away. Some locals reported suspicious vehicles prowling Route 112 in the weeks around her disappearance. One even claimed to have seen a dark SUV parked strangely near the crash site that night. These sightings were never confirmed, but if a predator was at work, it would explain the vanishing act. A skilled offender preying on isolated roads, striking fast, leaving nothing behind. Serial predators who target women in remote areas often share traits: patience, meticulous planning, and familiarity with the terrain. They wait for moments of vulnerability, flat tires, car accidents, broken down engines, and then strike. Maura's crash created the perfect opportunity. Alone, at night, in the freezing cold, vulnerable. If such a predator was in the area, Maura wasn't just unlucky, she was hunted. In the years following Maura's disappearance, other women vanished across New England. Brianna Maitland, just 17, disappeared in Vermont weeks after Maura. Her car was found abandoned in a bizarre position against an old farmhouse wall, keys still inside. Like Maura, she was never seen again. Two young women, both driving alone. Both cars abandoned in strange, haunting scenes. Both cases unsolved. Coincidence? Or connection? Law enforcement has never publicly confirmed ties between Maura's case and other disappearances. Some say they fear fueling panic. Others believe they lack the evidence to draw conclusions. But silence only deepens the speculation. When multiple women vanish in a region and no answers are given, the shadow of a predator seems impossible to ignore. So what happened to Maura Murray? Was she one of many, a victim of a predator who stalked lonely highways? Or did her disappearance have nothing to do with the Valley of Death and everything to do with choices she made in her final days? The truth may lie somewhere in between, or in details long overlooked. What do you believe? Was Maura the victim of an opportunistic killer? Or was her fate more personal? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to Dark Case Files so you never miss an update. Because in our next part, we'll explore something even more unsettling: the possibility of a cover-up, secrets held by those closest to Maura, and whether the truth has been hidden in plain sight for nearly 20 years.